It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this beautiful part of our state this morning as we celebrate the energization of the New York Energy Solution, a clean energy electric transmission project. The new monopoles you see behind me are part of the NYES project. We are fortunate to give you this great view of the transmission corridor from the grounds of our neighbor and friend, Bee Hollow Farm in Avery. I'll speak more about our agricultural connections later, but first I'd like to welcome some very special guests who are joining me today. Representing the Governor of the State of New York, Kathy Hochul, please welcome New York State Energy Research and Development Authority President and CEO, Doreen Harris. I am also pleased to welcome up here with me one of the distinguished commissioners of the New York State Public Service Commission, Diane Berman. The Executive Vice President of the New York State Independent System Operator, Emily Nelson. And representing our good friends from Local 1249 of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, President and Assistant Business Manager, Henry Westbrook. And from our Capital Region Chamber, Vice President of Government Relations, Tom O'Connor. Now, for folks in the audience, and thanks to all of you for joining, we're thrilled to have you among us today. Other distinguished commissioner from the New York State Public Service Commission, David Valesky, along with Justin Driscoll, the President and CEO of the New York Power Authority. We also have representatives from Congresswoman Stefanik, State Senator Ashby, State Assembly Member Bendet, New York Department of Public Service Commission, ACE New York, New York League of Conservation Voters, Columbia County Economic Development Corporation, and many of the team members, including some of our board members. New York Transco is a New York company committed to building New York's clean energy future for the betterment of all New York's residents and businesses. Our business is transmission, what we like to call the backbone of the electric grid. The transmission system is what enables our clean energy future. It's the structures and the lines and the stations that take clean energy from where it is produced and carry it to where it's consumed, our homes and businesses. We rely on this system as a foundational in our daily lives, brewing that morning cup of coffee, charging our cell phones, and lighting up the field at a Little League game. But a modern, vibrant transmission system is so much more. It is the key to the reliability and resiliency of the electric grid, helping to meet our increased need for electricity while also charting the path for decarbonization to address climate change. Earlier this summer, just 2 years after starting construction, and 6 months ahead of schedule, New York Transco helped New York State move one step closer to meeting its nation-leading clean energy goals by energizing the NYES project, and we did so with over 1.2 million consecutive safe work hours. New York Transco couldn't have done this without Local 1249. Of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and many other contractors and partners, many of whom are here today and deserve a huge round of applause. In this rapid time frame, our team was safely able to fully modernize this Great Depression-era transmission corridor that runs 55 miles through portions of 11 Rensselaer, Columbia, and Dutchess counties. We replaced 90-year-old lattice structures with 230 fewer new monopoles engineered to provide greater reliability and resiliency. The new monopoles that you see behind us hold a 345 kV transmission line and a 115 kV line that connect into stations along the corridor, 2 new, 1 rebuilt, and 1 upgraded. These assets working together will help alleviate historic transmission bottlenecks and provide the capacity that is needed to carry the increasing amounts of clean, renewable energy from where it is generated to the homes and businesses that need it across the region and beyond. Projects like NYES are needed now more than ever. Our nation is in a race to modernize and expand our electrical transmission system. We're fortunate that New York State is leading the way. And with projects like New York Energy Solution, our state is also offering a blueprint for what can be accomplished when government, transition developers, and local communities work together. Local collaboration, cooperation, and communication was a hallmark of the New York Energy Solution. We made it a priority from day one to work with all stakeholders, especially our 11 host communities and over 500 abutting neighbors, looking for ways to minimize impacts, be a good neighbor, and reinforce the project's benefits to our shared environment and economy. We'd like to share our appreciation to our host communities and neighbors for your patience and willingness to work with us over the past several years. You are a huge part of making this project successful. Thank you. On that note, our location today, in addition to its wonderful views of the corridor, is symbolic of the spirit of cooperation we were able to build with so many of our neighbors. This beautiful setting highlights the long-standing harmony between New York's abundant agricultural industry and energy projects like NYES. I extend our gratitude to all our agricultural neighbors, especially Paul McPhail of Bee Hollow Farm, for years of collaboration and local hospitality today. And if you haven't tried Paul's products, you're missing out. They're wonderful. In closing, my remarks have several additional thank yous. Thank you to the New York Transco Board, Will and Stu. Thank you very much for all your help. Thank you to our leadership and professional team that helped us bring this project in. Thank you to the New York transmission owners, which we could not have done without, including the New York Power Authority, Con Edison, National Grid, Central Hudson, and New York NYSEG. The skilled workers of Local 1249. Thank you, Burns & McDonald, J.W. Dodado, McPhee Electric, Supreme Industries, and Aldridge Electric, and all of our contractors and suppliers who work tirelessly and safely to make this project the success it is. You're truly a first-class group of people. Thank you to the many state agencies and their leadership and staff that we worked with through permitting and compliance, including the Public Service Commission, Department of Public Service, Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Agriculture and Markets, and the Department of Transportation, among others. Thank you also, New York System Independent Operator, for putting your trust in New York Transco for the New York Energy Solution. We look forward to leveraging this success and our collaboration with the New York Power Authority to develop and propel New York, an innovative transmission solution in parts of Long Island, New York City, and Westchester County, which will bolster that system and provide pathways to deliver offshore wind to the statewide grid. I'm going to move this flag a little bit here so I can look at folks and say, you have my word that we'll approach that project with the same commitment to safety, community outreach, and advance the New York clean energy solution, as we did with NYES. And we express our thanks to the Governor Hochul for the administration's unwavering leadership to advance New York's clean energy solution. Now it is with my honor and privilege to once again introduce NYSERDA President and CEO Doreen Harris to lead us off in remarks on behalf of Governor Hochul.
Well, thank you, Vic, for that introduction, and good morning, everyone. I'm Doreen Harris, the President and CEO of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. We're the state's clean energy agency, and it's a real pleasure to be here on behalf of Governor Hochul to celebrate here in Schodack Landing for this milestone celebration. I'd specifically like to start, though, by recognizing a number of colleagues who are here today, because it is true that to achieve the goals of New York's climate law, we need every system working together in ways that it never perhaps had before. I use the term hyper-collaboration, and when I think about hyper-collaboration, I specifically want to acknowledge the representatives here from the Public Service Commission, Commissioners Valesky and Berman, because it is really without their support, without their leadership, and specifically without the Commission's vision, projects like this simply would not advance. And so I want to make that known, along with the collaboration of the New York Independent System Operator. And Emily, I'm sure, will be speaking to this point. But really, when we think about how we get from here to there, that hyper collaboration that I referenced is indicative in this project here today, in which we see real investments moving forward to facilitate the transition that we are advancing together. And of course, our partners in labor and the Capital Region Chamber, and specifically Vic and York Transco. I really want to celebrate the milestone here. It's not often you hear projects advance ahead of schedule, so that's a major, major feather in your cap for sure. And when we think about how we get from here to there, it is true, as the state's clean energy agency, we're rapidly advancing literally dozens and hundreds and thousands of clean energy projects across our state. Everything from the smallest solar project to the largest offshore wind project to the major transmission projects that Governor Hochul approved in her first month in office, the Champlain-Hudson Power Express and Clean Path New York, all representing this massive transformation of power generation necessary to support the rapid electrification of our economy. But why is the Clean Energy Agency here celebrating a transmission project? The reason is transmission is simply the connective tissue that is necessary to not only allow supply to meet demand, but also to build out the grid consistent with the goals of the climate law. One of the jobs I have is the co-chair of New York's Climate Action Council. And when we looked at how we achieve our 2030, 2040, and 2050 goals around the state, our grid is going to roughly double in capacity in that time frame. And our peak is going to shift from a summer peak to a winter peaking system. And so how does one achieve these objectives? Yes, we need all of the projects that I just referenced and more, but we need major investments in transmission to both sustain, expand, and make our grid as reliable as it is today in that decarbonized future. So projects like the New York Energy Solution Project, I'd say, are indicative of what we will be doing across the state as the years and decades move on, to not only relieve system congestion, but also bolster reliability and resiliency, and ultimately to deliver clean energy across our state. So when we at NYSERDA work on our projects, we do so with those partners at the Department of Public Service, at the New York Independent System Operator, at the utilities and beyond, because we know we need to advance transmission solutions across our state to get from here to there. And so when I think about today's milestone, I want you to think about it as a symbol of the transition that we know we can achieve better together than we can alone. And when I think about companies like New York Transco and our labor partners, they're indicative of the ways in which we need to bring the private sector to bear on these solutions, to bring the projects forward ahead of schedule and at the scale needed to reach our goals. And I think it's also indicative of the ways in which New York is sending the right market signals. Why do we set goals like those in the climate law? Because it shows to the market that this is a place to do business over many decades in which entities like IBEW and the local chambers of commerce can see themselves in that future, not just for this year, but for many decades to come. And so I think we in the state have amazing conditions for success because of these partnerships, because of the leadership of our governor, and because of the ways in which we are demonstrating that it can be done here in New York and around the world. So I thank you so much for inviting me to celebrate on this occasion. It's a real pleasure and so much more to come with all of us together. And as I said, none of this would be possible without the leadership of New York's Public Service Commission. So it's my particular honor and pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Commissioner Diane Berman, who is one of the major leaders in advancing these transmission solutions around our state. So I'll hand the microphone over to her with my sincere thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm really honored, especially to have my fellow commissioner, Commissioner David Valesky, with me. I just need to provide a brief disclaimer. Anything I say here today should not be construed as how I may decide the outcome of a pending or future matter that may come before the PSC. All such decision-making is made based on the official record in such PSC proceedings or matters. The challenge and goal of New York State energy policy is to balance reliability, environmental sustainability, and the cost of energy supply to meet the needs and demands of consumers and to support the growth of New York State's economy. Projects like these present true economic development opportunities as part of our clean energy transition. This project has several really good things. One, the completion of the project is a big milestone and an example of the much-needed modernization of New York's aging utility infrastructure. Two, these new or upgraded transmission facilities will relieve congestion on New York's bulk power system, enhance reliability and resiliency of the state's electric grid, and facilitate the delivery of clean energy resources to New York utility customers. And three, this project also had minimal environmental impacts as it used existing transmission right-of-ways. We need to be mindful that the path forward will require all stakeholders collaborating to help shape our clean energy future and will require multiple resources and out-of-the-box cost-effective solutions to play a role in our state's overall energy landscape. So today is a day to take a moment and recognize the hard work of everyone to get us to this point with this project. Kudos, and again, thanks for having me and my fellow Commissioner Valesky joining you today. Thank you.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. The hard work of many parties has brought us together to recognize the New York Energy Solution Project is energized. We all appreciate the early completion of this project for many reasons, but in particular, it brings us here on a summer's morning instead of a cold winter's day. And for that, we are truly grateful. On behalf of the New York Independent System Operator, I'm proud to acknowledge this important milestone. First and foremost, congratulations to New York Transco for completing this project and improving the energy infrastructure to serve New York. The New York Energy Solution expands the capability of the power grid, and by doing so, increases the flexibility and therefore the reliability of this critical infrastructure that serves all of New York. Congratulations to our state partners as well, in particular, the Public Service Commission and the Department of Public Service for your work. Your focus on strengthening the transmission system to enable the clean energy transition is evident. It's manifested by the completion of this project. And lastly, thanks to my colleagues at the New York Independent System Operator and to our board for working together with stakeholders and with the developers to evaluate and ultimately select this project to bring forward as an efficient and cost-effective transmission solution to serve New York. The state's clean energy policy is ambitious and it's challenging. Improving the transmission system with projects such as the New York Energy Solution is critical as we work together to meet New York's state climate law. It is a pleasure to take some time today to recognize the efforts of all involved in this project, bringing us one step closer to the grid of the future. Thank you.
I'm here to speak to you on behalf of my members, my brothers and sisters of the IBEW. I don't have to say much. This is what they built. With a lot of help from good relationships between New York State Transco, Burns and McDonald, J.W. Dodato, McPhee, Supreme, and Aldridge. We worked really well together. The communication and the dedication to this project has been top end. And we have a lot of people that I represent across the state. You know, we don't only just build these projects. We have about 4,000 people right today working right now. Anywhere from traffic signal all the way up to the big power lines like this, substations, solar, street lights, all the above. But I am very proud of this group of individuals that got this job done. It wasn't just the members in the field. It was the communication and the working together with all entities, and it went very well.
Pleasure to be here on such a celebratory day, and 6 months early. So on the drive here, I recall many drives I took as a 8-year-old with my parents. I'm from a very large family. And my parents would love to take us out, load us into the family truckster, and just drive around. Sometimes for a family picnic, or sometimes just to drive. And as a kid, you would see what I now know are infrastructure to our grid. But as a kid, these things coming down the hillside through the valley, they looked like monsters. They truly did. And I now know this is part of our infrastructure. But we're going from those to an 8-year-old kid, monsters, to these monopoles. This is the future of our grid. So Vic, your team, our friends in labor, to an 8-year-old, you're monster slayers. To now much older and somewhat wiser and somewhat more knowledgeable of our grid, you are what represents the future and what is necessary to make our transition to a greener economy. So with that, what you see here is the future of our transmission system. It ensures that the capital region, the Hudson Valley, and our state has access to resilient, reliable, affordable, and renewable energy. And for a Chamber of Commerce, that's very important. If you look to other members, our retail members, our manufacturers, they can have a great product, but if they can't get that product to market, what happens? It sits on a shelf in some warehouse. The same is true when you look at renewables. We can build solar arrays. We can go to offshore wind. If you can't get that renewables to our businesses, to our residents, in a reliable manner, it's meaningless. This connects it. This is the pathway to making sure that our renewables get to market. So the Chamber and our affiliate, the Center for Economic Growth, has been very supportive of efforts to go to a more carbon neutral economy. We're very supportive of efforts at our ports, at Queens and at Albany, to manufacture for offshore wind projects. And I can tell you that our effort is to make sure that as we make this transition, our communities, our businesses, our residents have access to affordable, reliable energy. So Vic, we couldn't be prouder of what you've done. This has been a team effort between you, between labor, between the state of New York. In this project in particular, upgrading our grid, that takes partnerships with NYSERDA, with DEC, with NYPA, with PSC, with NYSEL. And those partnerships to get this across the finish line is very important. And when you look at how this project was developed, you engaged stakeholders from the beginning right through completion. I can't tell you how many emails, updates I received. That's the way you do a project like this. You get community engagement, you get your neighbors, you get your businesses together, and then you work proactively with your government decision makers. Lastly, I have to say, congratulations, well done. Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay,
Ready?
1, 2, 3.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Nice meeting you.